I met Elvis in 1957, and I saw him about a week before he died, 1977. I was around him 20 years. He took me to California with him 1 year. I spent a year out there with him at 525 Brugge Way in Bel Air, California. Lord, I've got a book out there that's got about 50 stories in it. Those are the ones I could tell. Other ones I can't tell. Yeah, really. Well, it's all I just probably had a book about this thick. The year I spent out in California with it, I got all kind of trouble.
What did they call you, Bardahl?
That was the nickname Elvis gave me the night I met him in 1957. I worked at Rainbow Skating Rink, and the guy that normally worked the rink was sick, so he asked me if I'd work a private party. So he told me that all I got to do is give out the skates. When you get through, put the skates up, lock up, and go home. Said it'd pay you $50. Hell, 1957, $50 was a lot of money. So, but he forgot to tell me whose party it was. So I get in, two guys come in, they open the front door, and they let in about 150, 200 people. All these people come in, I didn't know a soul. I give out the skates and all, and when they got through, I put my skates on, and I got out there with them. Well, about 30 minutes later, we had a terrace room that was on the same property. It was a fine eating establishment. Elvis comes walking in. Now I know whose party it is. So I get off the floor, unlock his skates, and give them to him. We get back out there skating. Well, about 30 minutes later, somebody starts blowing a whistle. And I look around, all the females are getting off the floor. The guys, half of them going to one end of the ring, the other half going to the other end. At the end I was at, I could see Elvis on the other end. I told the guy next to me, I said, I want to get hold of Elvis. He said, okay. He yelled, hey Elvis, this guy wants you. Elvis said, okay. They blew the whistle, we had the little free-for-all. Oh, about 5 minutes later when I woke up, they had me in a chair, rag on my head, they was sitting there fanning me, apologizing. I told him, I said, man, this is your party, so let's go play some more. So everybody gets up there, lines up again, everybody ready, they blow the whistle, here we go again. I'm going to stick it to him this time. Well, about 5 minutes later when I woke up the second time, rag on my head, Elvis fanning me, apologizing. Well, this time I done got a little irritated. I told him, I said, no, it's your party, let's go. Now, figure, I'm 17, he's 22. He is in good shape, too. We all got back out on the floor. Everybody lines up again. They blow the whistle. Two people come down the floor, Elvis and I. We collide in the middle, and I get up and I look down, here's Elvis laid out cold. Here goes Red West and all of them out there. I go over in the corner and hide under the table and chairs. Well, about 5 minutes later, they finally got Elvis away. And Red West found me here under the table and chairs. Said, Elvis, he's over here. Oh, Lord. So Elvis comes over there, he looks under the table and takes that little finger and does this. Oh, Lord, I'm going to get beat, and I know it. And my dad raced automobiles, and every guy that owned the Bardahl distributorship in Memphis would give me boxes of T-shirts. And I always wear the T-shirts to skate rink, so I wouldn't tear my good clothes. So I get out from on the table and all, and I stand up. Elvis in front of me and Red West to my right. Elvis, he looks at me, and he looks down at my T-shirt. Looks at me again, looks down at the T-shirt again. He said, Bardahl. He said, Red, said, I like it. He gave him the phone number up to the house. He can come up anytime he wants. Elvis turned around and skated away. Red West wrote down the phone number in Grayson, handed it to me, and Red skated away. Here I just been knocked out twice for Elvis. I just knocked Elvis out. Got the phone number in Grayson, and the invitation come up anytime I want. That's how I got the nickname Bardahl that night. Thank you. And your name is Will McDaniel.
I see. My name's Gary Buck, because it says so right there, I think. Any questions from anybody that might want to know anything about J.D. Sumner and the Stamps? That was the quartet that sang with Elvis the last 7, almost 8 years, and opened his show for maybe the last 5 years, something like that. But anyway, there's always people that remember J.D., the world's lowest down bass singer. But then, anyway, 1970 and 71 is when I was with Stamps, and if anybody have any questions for those that time of the year, I would be glad to have Bardahl tell you about it.
I remember. That was probably fun.
So that's when they were filming That's the Way It Is, right?
Yes, so let me back up. I sang tenor with J.D. in 1970 and 71, and I was a young man. And he was going to change all of his people into group to young people because he was fixing the Stamps were getting ready to do the shows with Elvis. And so I had the opportunity to audition with Elvis, with J.D., and J.D. gave me my first job professionally in gospel music. I didn't know anything about the Elvis stuff. It was just, every quartet's got to have somebody that sings the girl's part, and that's what I did for the last over 50 years, so forth. But 70 and 71, we were in rehearsal for Elvis's show, and the opportunity came along about middle of 1971. Some guys that were members had just become members of the Grand Ole Opry. Maybe you've ever heard of a group called the Four Guys. And thank you very much. Anyway, so they had just become members of the Grand Ole Opry, but they really weren't doing very well yet. And but anyway, the lead singer wanted to the tenor singer wanted to start singing lead. And so they were looking for a tenor singer. And they offered me a partnership, which included a membership in the Grand Ole Opry, to come with them. I talked to J.D. about it on the bus, and J.D. said, man, you need to do that. And so then I left, and Bill Bass, that was singing all those things that you mentioned about, all the things, and I left and started singing with these four guys on the Grand Ole Opry. And it wasn't that I didn't get to ever be to Graceland or, there was two things. So why would you pass up on the opportunity to be with Elvis? If you remember the little guy that stood beside Elvis, and you'll know he played rhythm guitar, sang parts and everything, his name was Charlie Hodge. Charlie Hodge was a little street urchin in Decatur, Alabama. His dad was a bad alcoholic and gone all the time. His mama was working day and night. And my grandparents raised Charlie Hodge. So he was part of my family, extended family, whatever, all growing up. So I wasn't really losing the contact by being able to go to Graceland and everything. Charlie lived there with Elvis. And so I wasn't missing out on, other than performing live with Elvis was a great thing, but I was performing live on the Grand Ole Opry. And actually, he was talking about being at Elvis the last week or so. 2 weeks to the day before Elvis died, I was at Graceland with Charlie. And if you were there, everybody had their days and nights turned around. So everything was going on was there during the night. So I was with Charlie in his quarters there. Elvis comes in, and here's one of his old tenor singers that he said he always had songs for an old tenor singer to sing. So, but anyway, so we stayed up that night playing old Quartet records. And 2 weeks to the day later, I was supposed to bring back, I took the records that were Elvis's, and I took them home with me to Nashville and made copies of them. Well, I knew I couldn't make it back on the next Monday, but I was going to come back the following Monday. Had I been there then, on that Monday night, that Tuesday morning, was when Elvis passed. And so just the way things happen and so forth, but those are, like Bardahl says, there's a lot of stories, and some of them we can tell.
Yeah.
You know, well, that goes for JD, it goes for Elvis, it goes for a lot of the people that I've had the privilege of being on stage with. And being here and getting to be with you guys is a privilege. And look forward to it. We're going to have a good time, folks. Amen?
So, the Grand Ole Opry was one of the few places that Elvis did not have great success. Did he ever talk about that when you were going to the Grand Ole Opry?
Not really, not that I remember. But I do know that he had come there very, very early in his career, and he was just next, you know, and maybe what his presentation was not maybe what some of the people from that day, the Roy Acuffs and the people like that were in their heyday. And here comes this young fellow that's doing Lord knows what. They'd never seen anything like this before or since. But he did have the opportunity to perform at the old Ryman downtown, at the old Opry. And that was one of the highlights of my life. And I was able to be there at the Ryman the last 3 years when the Ryman was still there, when the Opry was still there, and the next 7 years out there. And in 1975 was the 50th anniversary of the Grand Ole Opry. Everybody that we've only had them one time that year for the 50th anniversary of the Grand Ole Opry. Everybody that was the member of the Opry got a ring. The men got rings, the ladies got these little bracelets. And so every day that I know of since 1975, I've worn my ring. And there was only 40 of those made. So the Opry is a special place, and I got to be there at a special time. And as I said, it's special to get to be here with you guys. Y'all have a lot of memories and things too. If you have any other questions, whatever, as Bardahl says, maybe we can answer. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I can barely hear you because I don't have my hearing aids turned on.
We don't know what to ask, really, I guess. But
Sure.
Can you just give us one or two instances where you were with Elvis and something happened, or you enjoyed it, or whatever? Anyway, just talk about it. We want to hear you.
You got something? Oh.
I didn't like that. He just passed it on over. Yeah. Well, you know, we used to go to Memphis Theater, and we get an entourage lined up about 7 or 8 cars to leave Graceland. Go down it was Bellevue Boulevard then.
That's my story.
To Parkway.
I was fixing to tell that one. No, go ahead.
That's the same. We both have the same story here.
No, yours is not the same story.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
We go down the Parkway, turn right, and follow it around going to the Memphis Theater. Well, this night as we turned, a young couple, was pulled upside Elvis. Elvis was driving. And this girl saw Elvis and she just went nuts. She kept telling her boyfriend, pull over, more. And he kept pulling over and Elvis kept pulling over. And after a while it was getting kind of dangerous. And I drove race cars for 25 years. But at this time, I just pulled out of the line, pulled up to his back bumper. He never felt me get a hold of him. Next thing you know, he's running 60 miles an hour down Parkway when I let him go. He didn't slow down, he just kept on going. So I got back in line, and we got to Memphis Theater, Elvis got out to Bardahl, so I didn't know what he was going to do. I was running out and ready to go. But those are things that, that happen. Y'all want him back.
At the very end of Elvis's life and leading up into the, you would think the normal things that we go out and we have fun doing and we just go to places and enjoy the things that matter. Elvis was not able to do all of that. But he tried. And he didn't miss much. But Charlie Hodge was telling me, what are you guys doing for fun now? That last night that I was there. I said, what are you guys doing for fun now? He said, well, Elvis there was an old lean-to shed in the back. I don't know if they've replaced it now or not. But underneath that old shed was where Elvis had these really one-of-a-kind cars. The Stutz Black Hawk and things like that. But anyway, so when they'd get bored about 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, Elvis and Charlie would go get one of those cars. They would drive it around the circle, go out of the main gate, because at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, there was 300, 400 people out there all the time. And they would come out, and everybody would see them. Well, they didn't stop. They went across the street. There was this little strip mall back there back in the day, and it was pretty much empty. And they would go over there in that parking lot and do donuts in the car, okay? Then all of these people would come running over there, and they would start about 10 miles an hour going down the street. That's what I thought he was going to tell me. And they would wait, and all of these people go run in their car, get in their car. And so here, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, here's this parade, a low-speed parade, 20, 30 miles an hour through the streets of Memphis. And they would do that, and just to fool with these people. They were just having fun. Well, and then, so when they got tired, they went around to the back way. There was really not an entrance to begin with. There was a cemetery back there. And they made Elvis, or he asked, and somebody accommodated an entrance back there that he could come in, had a remote that they could open that gate. And so when they got tired and ready to go and come in and do something else fun, they would come through the cemetery, shut the door on everybody else, and come on back in and park and just pick up from whatever foolishness they wanted to do next. But that's the kind of thing that nobody would really think of what did Elvis do for fun, and he did like to have fun. But back in 1977, that was some of their way that he and Charlie in the middle of the night got out and irritated everybody.
A lot of times they didn't do that. A lot of times he'd take off in the Stutz. And one of the guys would call the police department. Elvis is out on the road tonight. So here's Elvis going 120, 130 miles an hour in that Stutz. And the police out there making sure he don't run over nobody. Because he just loved to get out there and stick a foot in it. And I don't know if many of y'all remember, but Richard Davis worked for Elvis. Richard married Kim, and they had triplets. And then Richard passed away early in their life. But Richard took one of the Stutz one time and wrecked it. Then he had to go back and tell Elvis that he done wrecked the Stutz. Elvis was not happy with him. But you had so much fun around Elvis. I mean, you could do nearly anything you wanted, just so long as it didn't hurt somebody. or get somebody in real trouble. But we done a lot of different items. Playing football. We go up to the house every Sunday. Go out there and look out the front window. There's 50, 60 people down there at the gate. Those all said, we'll wait till it thins out a little, then we'll go. An hour later, we look out there. There's 150 people out there. Elvis said, oh, we're going to wait a minute. I said, no. I said, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to play football. Y'all can sit up here all day. I had a 44 coupe. And so I went out and got in my car, and the driver walked up and he looked at the back seat. There was no seat. There was a little thing that folded down. Had a bar on it. And you sit on it. Elvis looked at Daddy and said, I'm going to ride with you. So Elvis got in there, and he just sitting up just as straight as he could. We went down to the gate opened up, and I'm running over people. They're all over my car. But nobody looked in the car for Elvis. We were playing football for over an hour before they knew he was gone. Just things like that. And the whole time, he's sitting back there laughing. And nobody looked at my old daughter now. But that's just some of the things that we done that just you wouldn't expect what could have happened.
Anybody else? That's good. I have a question. How many of y'all have been, say, in the last 10 years, been to Graceland and been around the place? I have a question for you. When I was there last, and the thing I always thought was really neat about Graceland had been the place that Elvis bought for his mother. And from the day before the 2 weeks before when I was there before he passed, it still had that same exact. It was an old farmhouse back when they bought the house. It was an old farmhouse, and it still had in the back, as you would go in Charlie Hodges' apartment right to the right, and then you go right on through the door to go to the rest of the house, was an old screen door with an old screen. You ever go into an old farmhouse, you open the door, that was still there. Because he was going to keep it like his mom, like he bought it for his mama. Now, I don't know, to this day, is that something that is still there, or are they, in all the redoing of everything, have they redone that too? I don't know, I'm serious, I'm asking. Yeah, right. I've always been curious as to how much things like that would have meant so much to him were still a part of what's there. So that's my question. Does anybody know? Well, the next time you go, pardon? Okay, next time you go, well, just think of things like that might still be a part of the way he always intended for it to be. Because I always thought it was really neat.
It might be a part of something that you can't tour in. You know, they're very limited in the way they let you go. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So it may still be there, and it may not.
Neither one of us has been back since.
I don't know how people liked it, 4th of July and New Year's, but Elvis loved it. He'd go out and buy boxes and boxes and boxes of Roman candles. And we'd go out and back and have Roman candle fights. Now, we get out there one time, and we're having Roman candle fights. there was some girls sitting at the back door, kitchen door, harassing us. And after about 10 or 15 minutes, Elvis finally got pissed about it. He said, I'm over to me, but Bardahl to get you a couple of Roman candles. I said, okay. So I got a couple. He said, when I tell you, we're going to chase them girls. I said, Elvis, they're going to run in the house. He said, we're going to teach them a lesson. Okay. He said, okay, let's go. We let them run, a freshman each, and we took off after girls. They run in the house, we run behind them. Steady shooting Roman candles out. Burning big holes in the carpet and all. And then we finally run out. We sat down on the steps that goes upstairs, looking around. Big holes burned all in the rugs and all. Elvis said, well, I guess we talked to him a lesson, didn't we? I said, yeah, really. He had all new carpets put in the next day.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Pardon me?
Gentlemen?
Let's have a nice hand for this two fine gentlemen, please.